कशाला म्हणून
Okay, so Hare Krishna to everyone. We will begin our 5th chapter today. The name of chapter is again Karma Yoga Part 2. Third chapter was also Karma Yoga and 5th chapter is also Karma Yoga. Action Krishna Consciousness. We'll recite Mangala Charan prayers now. Om Agyantimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhesha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langaite Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwara. Okay, it's a humble attempt from my side to speak on this 5th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. We will be covering a portion of the chapter today because lot of nice points that comes in this chapter. S stands for stay in this world. In other words, um, um, Krishna recommend work in devotion over renunciation or sannyasa. T stands for three doers, and we will see next week who are the three doers. Um, E stands for equal vision, and we will see how to develop and when one develops equal vision, how that is possible. And P stands for peace formula. How can one become peaceful? This is the subtopics of this chapter. We'll begin with S. S stands for stay in the word. Um, Arjuna Vacha Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna Punaryogam cha samsasi Yashreya etayorekam Tanme bruhi sunishchitam. Arjuna Vacha, Arjuna said, Sannyasam Karmanam Krishna. So there are two things, Karma Sannyas and Karma Yoga. Which one? So Sannyasam Karmanam Krishnam. Um, Sannyasam karma. Karma is activity. Karmanam is result of activities. Sannyasa is renouncing. So sannyasam karmanam Krishna. Should I renounce the result of my activities? Um, 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 or should I renounce my activities? Basically, renouncing the results of one's activities, or punar yogam. Um, uh, Punar yogam. Yoga is um, Punar is again you described. So the theme is Krishna, you have described me to renounce the activities of the world. Again, you described yogam or working in connection with the Lord, working in devotion. Cha samsasi. Samsasi means you also describe. So you have described to me previously in previous chapters to work in devotion, and you also described to renounce the work. Yes, Shreya etayor ekam. Shreya means, like we have in our congregation uh, um, a daughter named Shreya. Shreya means Uttama. Uttama. Yes, Shreyam etayor ekam. Tell me one. Eka. Tell me one option which is higher. Shreyam, which is higher. Tan me bruhi to nishchitam. Nishchaya means with confidence, with definity. So please tell me definitely. So the idea is, um, Arjun is telling Krishna, I am now confused. You asked me to work in devotion, yet at the same time you asked me to renounce work. Um, which is better? Which one should I do? Now, on a matter of fact, Krishna actually never asked Arjuna to renounce work. But when Krishna was describing the sacrifices, last week we saw. So Krishna says some people sacrifice by, some are brahmachari, um, some are in grahastha ashram, some sacrifice by Brahman, some their material possessions, some um, um, go to Himalayas and do yoga, some do these things. And then Krishna tells Arjuna, you just do one thing, you approach a spiritual master. And last week we discussed approaching a spiritual master, hearing submissively, rendering seva, service, um, and slowly, by the practice of devotional service, eventually one become accomplished. And we saw the example of Narad Muni in our last week discussion. Here, um, Arjuna took from there that Krishna is recommending that should I denounce one's activities. Now, this is what happens when we hear with inclinations. When we hear because we want to hear something, then one or two words we will take from what we are hearing, and we will conclude that's what I heard, and we try to kind of reformulate our own theory and say, well, this is what is the essence, that's what I heard today. So that's called improper hearing. Improper hearing. Proper hearing is when we are not hearing with um, any negativity towards anything or any inclination towards anything, but we are hearing in a mood, let me see what Krishna is telling me to do, in a neutral state. Then we can hear properly. So Arjuna is telling, what should I do? Should I work in devotion or should I renounce work? I am confused. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sannyasa Karma Yogascha Nishreyasa Karavubhav Tayostu Karma Sannyasat Karma Yoga Vishishyate. Karma Yoga Vishishyate. Vishishyate means it's better. So do Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga Vishishyate. Tayostu Karma Sannyasat. Karma Sannyasa is renouncing karma. Karma Yoga is doing karma to connect with the Lord. Yoga means to connect with the Lord. So um, among renouncing karma, karma sannyasa, karma yoga is better. Work in devotion is better. Tayos compared to karma sannyasat, karma yoga vishishyate. Karma yoga is better. Yet at the same time, nishreyasha karav ubhav. Both are good for liberation. Why Krishna is telling both are good for liberation? Because karma sannyasa, you don't get any reaction because you renounce the activities, and karma yoga is because we are doing karma for the pleasure of Krishna. Both are non-reactive by nature, both do not have a reaction. That's why both leads to liberation. Some people, they renounce, go to Himalayas and do those things, they also will get liberation. But if there is a comparison, then karma yoga is better. Karma yoga should be seen in a way it is described in the third chapter. What is karma yoga? Karma yoga means work done for the pleasure of the Lord. Karma yoga is actually a karma. And last week we were discussing, not last week, but last chapter we were discussing um, akarma, sukarma, vikarma. Sukarma take us to higher planet, good activities. Vikarma or bad activities take us to hellish planets. Akarma is non-reactive. Akarma is still karma. Akarma is actually karma yoga, which is devotional service. And um, uh, when sukarma or karma according to a varna and ashrama, as suppose if you are in grahastha ashram, then performing duties of grahastha ashram for the pleasure of Krishna, then that becomes karma yoga. When it helps us to develop our relationship with the Lord. And Krishna already explained in the third chapter, which he will not repeat here. He explained in the third chapter why karma yoga is better than karma sannyasa. Because he says that we have a nature, and um, if we don't work according to our nature and renounce artificially, then we will meditate based on our nature. It won't be natural. We will lament, I wish I have this, I wish I have that, what am I doing here? Because there are attachments. So a safe path is to use one's attachments and one's inclination and one's nature, and use that to somehow serve Krishna. If you want to eat very nice food stuff, you can cook very nice food stuff and offer to Krishna. So somehow direct. If you love children, then see children and taking care of children. If that's your passion, use it. Um, these are Krishna's children. Let me help them to come closer to Krishna. If you are very much attached to growing your business or getting a big house, then think that this house is not my property. This is Krishna's house. Um, um, and there is a, keep a room, a deity room. Keep Krishna there and tell every day, my Lord, this is your home. I want to use it in your service. At least begin with there. Even if it is artificial, start from there. If you want to acquire a lot of wealth, you can do so many nice Krishna conscious things with your wealth, or maybe a small portion of your wealth if you like. So somehow or other, whatever is your desires, you want to attain, you it's okay to do as per your nature, yet at the same time directed towards Krishna. So that also becomes a karma, and that is safe. Instead, if one take karma sannyasa, then one will be frustrated, because that's not his nature. So one must act according to one's nature. So that's why Krishna is telling, yes, both are good for liberation. But in third chapter, he says why karma yoga is better, work in devotion is better. And here Krishna gives another perspective on why work in devotion is better than renouncing work. As long as, okay, this is something from Srila Prabhupada purport, as long as one does not know his real identity, one has to work for material gains. So if we have not realized that we are spiritual beings, then we will naturally have material goals. We must have goals. We all have goals. We have direction in life. But our direction in life is based on our identification. If we identify ourselves with the body, then our direction in life will be material. And if I identify ourselves as a spirit soul, then our direction and our goal and our focus will be progress and advancement. So Prabhupada is telling, as long as one misidentify oneself as a body, as long as one does not know his real identity, one has to work for material gains. And as long as one is engrossed in such activities, one has to transmigrate from one body to another. So if we are not able to identify, if we have misidentified ourselves as the body and have material gains, then based on our desires and activities, another birth. We saw a video in second chapter, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning, your next birth is decided based on your karma in this life, and based on your attachments and your activities. If you work like a tree, you get a tree body. If you work like an animal, you get an animal body. If you work like a demigod in mode of goodness, simple living, high thinking, you get a demigod body based on one's activities. So best is to do our work, um, and um, do it as devotion to Krishna. That is called karma yoga. Um, now, now Krishna gives another perspective in this chapter why work in devotion is better than karma sannyasa, renouncing work. Merely renouncing all activities yet not engaging in devotional service of the Lord cannot make one happy. So, if we now, what makes us happy is connection to Krishna. When we hear Bhagavad Gita, we may feel some joy and some pleasure in our heart. That is because we are connecting to Krishna through Bhagavad Gita. But those people, or when we chant the holy names, when we do anything in connection to Krishna, when we remember Krishna, anything with respect to Krishna, we will feel joy in our heart. Even when you go to Krishna temple, you will feel joy in our heart because it's connected to Krishna. But if we go to Himalayas and renounce, uh, it will not bring us any happiness. It will bring us some satisfaction that I am not entangling myself in karma bandhana, but that's an immature understanding, because we don't entangle ourselves in karma bandhan if we are working on behalf of Krishna also. And that is even better. So just renouncing work will not make us happy, but it is connection with the Lord which will make us happy. But a thoughtful person engages in devotional service can attain the supreme without delay. And those who renounce work, they can't even attain Krishna. They can become liberated, but it's not attaining the Lord. That liberation is just liberation from reactions, because they are not engaged in material activities, they don't get material reaction. So that kind of liberation. So because they don't get material reaction, there is no karma bandhana, they don't suffer. So that kind of liberation from suffering but there is no true liberation of connecting with the Lord. And that's why, although they are not suffering, they are not happy also. Now, um, there is a difference between the state of neutrality and the state of happiness. State of happiness comes by connecting with the Lord. Like when what we are doing is trying to connect with the Lord, we'll become happy. State of neutrality is absence of suffering, but it's not a positive emotion. It's just absence of suffering. So one who denounce work may not suffer and may feel little peaceful because there is no anxiety, there is no suffering, but they cannot be happy also. Happiness comes, Krishna says here, by connecting with the Lord. By connecting with the Lord. By it says, um, because they are not engaged in devotional service of the Lord, they cannot become happy. So this is why Krishna is telling work in devotion instead of simply karma sannyasa. Work for my pleasure, so you will become happy. You will become happy. It's safe, it's natural for us based on our nature, and it will make us happy. So it's a win-win situation. Okay, there is a story of sage Vishwamitra Muni. He was not a devotee of the Lord. He was uh, Ashtanga Yogi. Ashtanga Yogi means they practice lot of austerities and tapasya. Eventually, he became a devotee of the Lord, though. They perform lot of austerity and tapasya. Um, um, it's a mechanical process of self-realization, Ashtanga Yoga. So he practiced that form for 1000 years, and um, um, one time Indra became insecure because Indra was thinking that um, Vishwamutra Muni is doing so much austerities and tapasya to gain my kingdom. Now, when we perform austerity and tapasya, we become powerful. Just like Hiranyakashipu got so much power that he even conquered demigod just by austerity and tapasya. Austerity and like Ravana, he was also not a devotee. Yet by his austerities he attracted power. By performing Ashtanga Yoga, one can attain some siddhis like floating in the air, becoming smaller than the smallest, bigger than the biggest, expanding one's body. These are mystic siddhis that can be attained even without being a devotee of the Lord. So you can become very powerful. So Vishwamitra Muni was not a so-called devotee at that point of time. Um, but by his austerity, Indra became insecure. Just like nowadays, also people who get a position, uh, they become attached to their position, and so much voting things and so much politics and competition, so they can maintain their position, and so much show off of their greatness so that people will vote them. Likewise, Indra, although a devotee of the Lord, he's not a pure devotee of the Lord, and he still have attachment to his being the king of heavenly planet. um, he thought Vishwamitra Muni may by his potency take over my position. So he wanted to distract Vishwamitra Muni. So he sent a Apsara, a damsel, a girl from heavenly planet. Her name was Menaka, and she came and she started dancing in front of Vishwamitra Muni, and Vishwamitra Muni eyes were closed and he was in meditation on Brahman. Um, um, by hearing the ankle bells of Menaka, Vishwamitra Muni got distracted. He opened his eyes, and when he saw the half-dressed, revealing form of Menaka, he became very attracted to her. He could not control his emotions, and he gave birth to a child, and Shakuntala was born. So so this is, on the other hand, we later previously we saw the example of Haridas Thakur, who Maya Devi personally, who is way more beautiful and revealing than Menaka, when she herself came to distract Haridas Thakur was unaffected. Instead, Haridas Thakur made Maya Devi the devotee of Krishna. So that's the potency of a devotee. Now, we one time one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, how can we develop detachment from our material desires? And Prabhupada said, by attaching to Krishna. So we cannot remove our attachment until we give our attachment a positive engagement. The state of mind is, the state of consciousness is attachment. Consciousness has to be attached. The attachment has to be transferred from matter to spirit, and how it happens is through devotional service. When we engage in devotional service of the Lord, beginning with hearing about Krishna, like what we are doing now, and chanting his names and meditating on him during our chanting. When we engage in devotional service, we derive joy, happiness from there. When we derive happiness from devotional service, our mind start becoming attached to it, because attachment comes from happiness. Now this is true even in material sense. If we have any enjoyment with say movies or restaurants, or some egoistic enjoyment, if we have any enjoyment, we develop attachment for those things and we want to repeat those things because we have enjoyed them in the past. But now what we have to do is, artificially we cannot cultivate detachment from those things because the impressions are there. So what we have to do is param drishtva nivartate. We have to cultivate our attachment to Krishna. Once we do that, the mind will naturally compare attachment to Krishna with attachment to other things, material. And mind can see the happiness coming from attachment to Krishna is way higher and superior in quality and nature compared to attachment to material things. And when one realizes that if I simultaneously cultivate attachment to material things and attachment to Krishna, uh, my attachment to Krishna will not grow. I will lose it. And because attachment to Krishna is superior in nature, one, out of fear of losing attachment to Krishna, gives up attachment to material things, although the attraction remains, because the mind has impressions, contradictory images in the subtle consciousness that comes back and that craves for material objects. But because we are experiencing something way higher, out of fear of losing it, we don't engage in material activities. And but at simultaneously we cultivate higher param drishtva nivartate, or higher pleasure, and that's what keeps one going. One time, one reporter asked Srila Prabhupada, you don't enjoy, what do you do for recreation? How do you get your pleasure? And Srila Prabhupada said, you don't go for movies, you don't do all this wine and women and all these things. These are Americans. So Americans, for them, wine and women is their life. So none of your disciples do all these things. Where do you enjoy? What do you do for recreation? And Prabhupada said, we only do recreation. We don't do anything else, because param deshva nivartate, the taste is way higher. And we see that because Vishwamitra Muni was not cultivating that taste, he became victim of Menaka. But Haridas Thakur, because he was cultivating a higher taste, he could compare his higher taste of Krishna Bhakti with lower taste of sensual pleasure, and he could give it up. It was not an austerity for Haridas Thakur to give it up, it was his natural response. So as one grows in one's attachment to bhakti, to devotion to the Lord, detachment will naturally comes. So that's why Krishna says here, uh, just renouncing work will not make us happy. In fact, we will be miserable, because we cannot enjoy here, we cannot enjoy spiritually, we cannot enjoy materially. But rather, if you work in devotion, you will actually become happy, and that's how you will be able to give up the base qualities or lower nature of lust and greed. Okay. One who works in devotion. Now Krishna described why work in devotion is better, and in the next two more verses, Krishna further describes why work in devotion is better. And at the end of this section today, we will see a overall picture of why work in devotion is better. Why Krishna says work in devotion, karma yoga is better than karma sannyasa. Okay, so continuing the edge of working in devotion, one who works in devotion, who is a pure soul and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone and everyone is dear to him. Though always working, such a man is never entangled. Okay, so um, first thing is he is a pure soul. When we work in devotion, we become purified, because we become purified by thinking of Krishna, by the element of Krishna, because Krishna is all pure. When we think of Krishna, we become purified just by thinking of Krishna. So when we are hearing about Krishna, so many times we are hearing the name Krishna, or hearing the words spoken by Krishna. They are non-different from Krishna. Krishna's words spoken by from Krishna is also non-different from Krishna, because in spiritual life everything is transcendental. The words of Krishna are as pure as Krishna himself. When we chant the name of Krishna, when we cook for Krishna, the thought of Krishna purifies us. So one who works in devotion because he is doing for the pleasure of Krishna, he becomes a pure soul. And who now if we are not working in devotion, if we are working like ashtanga or mechanical yoga processes, we can become very powerful, but we will not become pure. Just like Ravana, he became very powerful. Hiranyakashipu, he became very powerful, but Ravana became attracted to the beauty of Mother Sita. Ravana is lust personified. He had so many queens, but he wanted to enjoy physical sambandha with even the wife of Lord Ram. And with every beautiful woman he would see. So that shows, although he was very powerful, how powerful he was. He could get 10 heads, but he didn't become pure. Likewise, Hiranyakashipu, although they were devotees of Brahma and Shiva, but they didn't become pure, because Ravana was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. Brahma was a devotee of Hiranyakashipu was a devotee of Lord Brahma. They gave him powers. They became very powerful, but not pure. Hiranyakashipu, he was killing brahmanas, he was killing cows. He wanted to kill Vishnu, so the sign of impurity. But one who can think of Krishna, one who works in devotion, he becomes a pure soul. And we have seen anybody, Krishna says in second chapter, anybody in the past who have rendered devotional service unto me has become purified. And fourth chapter, Krishna says, if you render devotional service unto me, puna janmana vidyate, you don't take birth again. You become pure and you come to spiritual world. Spiritual world is all pure. Impurities cannot go there. We have to purify our existence from lust, envy, greed, pride, ego, and many other subtle elements. We cannot go till we are freed from all these things. Devotion will free us. Bhakti will make us pure soul. That's the first point. And who controls his mind and senses? A devotee, um, um, a devotee can control his mind and senses. A powerful person also cannot control mind and senses. And we saw Ravana, he could not control his mind and senses. You know it's a wrong thing. I want Sita. So he could not control his mind and senses. But we see Haridas Thakur, although Maya Devi personified, supremely beautiful, appeared in front of him and said, I want to enjoy with you today night. And Haridas Thakur had perfect control over his mind and senses. So why one can control mind and senses? By the spiritual strength. We saw in the third chapter when we were discussing the greatest enemy. Krishna says, Kama Isha Krodha Isha Rajoguna Samudbhava Mahashano Mahapapma Vidhi Enam Iha Vaidinam. Lust only, Arjuna, which is the biggest enemy, the attachment which is devouring everyone. And Krishna says you can overcome lust by spiritual strength. We need strength. That strength can, by that strength, we can overcome the demands of mind and senses. But if we don't have inner spiritual strength, we will be victimized by the demands of mind and senses. So a person who is working in devotion, because of devotion, he develops spiritual strength. And by that he can control mind and senses. And a person who has controlled mind and senses, he becomes dear to everyone. Because of uncontrolled mind and senses, we commit offenses. Like if the spouse does not cook properly, and we know that she cooked out of love, she tried her best to make the best dish for my pleasure, and because our tongue says I hate this food, the mind becomes agitated and we may become angry. So why mind and senses became uncontrolled, although the heart knows there is no fault of her, she tried her best, but uncontrolled mind and senses, and then there is a bitterness in the relationship. Bitterness in the relationship, or when we become angry at small things, it's all because of uncontrolled mind and senses. The source of misery is actually uncontrolled mind and senses. Prahlad Maharaj says that, my dear father Hiranyakashipu, you are so miserable because of your uncontrolled mind and senses. So um, 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 when the mind and senses become controlled, then we become dear to everyone naturally, because we adjust with everyone, and we, even though the mind may be angry, we still want others welfare, because we are still able to connect the mind with scripture, what will please Krishna. And when the mind and senses are controlled, then we can act according to knowledge. But when mind becomes agitated, the knowledge goes away. Like when lust attacks, we cannot think what is good, what is bad. We want to forget everything. Likewise, when anger attacks, we cannot think what is right and what is wrong. We want to just act based on our animalistic instincts at that point of time. So uncontrolled mind and senses takes away all good qualities and all knowledge. We cannot gather anything, and we just are mad, driven by the mind and senses, and it creates a havoc. But those whose mind and senses are controlled, they have Shastra Chakshu. Shastra Chakshu means they can, because they are in goodness, they have a pause button in themselves, and they can think from the point of scriptures what to do, how to act in this situation. So they are settled in their consciousness. Even if it's a very disturbing situation, they have still the power to think, because they have controlled mind and senses, and because of that they become dear to everyone, because then they are everyone's well wishers. They become dear to everyone, and they are never entangled. Why? Because whatever they are doing, but however they are working, they are doing it for the pleasure of Krishna. So that becomes a karma. So they are not entangled. Okay, and this is one of the example. Dhira dhira jana priyo priya karo nirmatsaro pujito Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopal Ko Krishna Kirtananath Bhi. So it's Dhira Adhira. Dhira means people who are sober. Adhira means people who are not sober. Jana Priyau, they were dear to both. Because, and Nirmatsara, Matsar is envy, Nirmatsara is non-envious. Because they were non-envious by nature, they were dear and they were well-wisher of both people who are sober and who are ruffians or ill-mannered people, and that's why they were dear to everyone. So that's a quality of a devotee. He becomes non-envious, he becomes well-wisher of everyone, and he becomes dear to everyone, and everyone becomes dear to him. So that's another edge of working in devotion. And then one who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results onto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. Now, if you see a lotus grows from the bed of a lake. Lotus grows in the lake, but yet the lotus is untouched by the lake water. Uh, um, um, Likewise, a devotee, although may be living in this material world, he is untouched by the reactions of his karma because he is working in devotion, and because he is not attached to the results. When we are attached to the results, it creates karma. It creates karma. But when we are working as a matter of duty, without attachment to results, without considering good or bad, um, for the pleasure of the Lord, that is true karma yoga, as Krishna describes in third chapter. Practical example is Duryodhana and Arjuna. Both were fighting, both have their own army, both were equally participating in Mahabharat war. Um, um, Duryodhan was attached to kingdom. Arjuna was attached to serving Krishna. Arjuna was not fighting for the kingdom. Arjuna was fighting because Krishna wants him to fight as a matter of duty. Duryodhan was fighting. If I win, I'll become the king. I will get all the name and fame. I will get so much wealth. I will control everyone. Everybody will listen to me. I will get a higher position. Um, Everyone will bow down to me. And these were motivations of Duryodhan. Because these were, he was getting entangled in karma bandhana. Okay. Now, it's easy said than done. This state of consciousness is quite advanced, actually. But we have to take baby steps. If we don't take baby steps, we never get there. And the baby step is do some devotional service in your life on a daily basis. Read Bhagavad-Gita, hear and do Nam Smaran, meditate on the names of the Lord. Um, um, do some devotional service. Um, that devotional service will the consciousness will grow from direct devotional service, and that once consciousness grows, it will permeate in everything else we do, and it will happen over a period of time. It will not happen tomorrow. Okay. Okay. And we saw the same principle. um, Krishna mentions in the fourth chapter, accept a spiritual master. uh, um, by that knowledge you will never fall again into illusion. um, but you will get those realization over a period of time by the practice of devotional service. Whatever we are hearing, these are very pure principles. We can hear them. Just by hearing them, because it is Bhagavad Gita, we are becoming purified. It's expanding our consciousness. We will be seeing benefit right now also from hearing Bhagavad Gita, but full advantage can come by realizing and applying these principles that will naturally come to you without any endeavor by the practice of devotional service. Bhakti yoga, bhakti amam abhijanati. All right. uh, this is, I think, okay, the last verse describing the edge of devotion, and then there are 2 3 more slides. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace, unadulterated peace, because he offers the result of all activities to me. Whereas a person who is not in union with the divine, who is greedy for the fruits of his labor, becomes entangled. So, Shvetashvatara Upanishad gives an example that the soul and the super soul or Paramatma, the Jiva and Paramatma. Paramatma is, or the super soul is expansion of Krishna, Paramatma. He is also sitting in our heart. And the soul, who we actually are, is in the region of the heart of this body. So both are compared to two birds in a tree. As you can see, there are two birds in a tree, and as you can see the picture, one is representing Jiva and one is representing Paramatma, Krishna. This one bird, if you see, she's eating some berries from the tree. So one bird is trying to taste the fruits of this material world. Sometimes the fruits are sweet, the bird enjoys, and sometimes the fruit are bitter and bird feels miserable. So bird feels like that. So this bird is tasting different fruits. Some are sweet, some are bitter. But Paramatma is only watching. Paramatma doesn't do anything, he's just watching. And because the bird is tasting sweet and bitter fruits, the bird is entangled to such an extent because there is sweet and bitter. The bird is trying to find out which fruits are sweet. Little bit sweet food bird enjoys, bitterness comes along with it from other fruits, and bird is determined to keep trying to find the sweet fruits, and that's how bird becomes entangled. So I will give you one example that will help us understand. There was a rat. This is done by this example. This experiment was done by a scientist. Um, there was a rat, and um, the rat saw. Um, so there was a rat machine before. Now the word is becoming more and more um, 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 sinful. So now, in order to trap the rat, they give poison to the rat and they kill the rat. But previously, I remember we used to have this box where the other side was open. You go and you put some roti, and the rat will come and take some roti, and because he will pull the lever, the other side would lock and the rat will be captured, and then we would go onto the street and leave the rat there. But nowadays, this in America, I mean, people directly with poison. You come, you eat, and you die because it's a poison. So this scientist, still little bit sattvic, he did an experiment, and there was a box to capture the rat, and there were two levers, and the rat went there. He pressed one lever, and some chapati came, some food stuff that rat likes to eat, and the rat enjoyed. Then the rat thought, let me try the other lever. So he went to the other lever and pushed it with his head, um, and electric shock came. It was not a wooden, it was a iron box, and the lid was closed already. So the rat is trapped. So now the rat got an electric shock. Hoo, I should not press this lever button. And then the rat went to the first lever and pushed again, and electric shock came. Hoo, and then again rat suffered. And then rat thought, what should I do? Let me try this lever. And then he tried this lever and chapati came. Wow, amazing. Then he ate chapati, then he pushed the same lever again, electric shock came. So this professor, he did a random event. One of the liver will randomly give you chapati or electric shock. So this rat became so absorbed to get the chapati although he was getting electric shock along with it, that the professor, he opened the lid from behind, and the rat saw that I can escape, but rat was so eager to get the chapati that he kept on pressing the levers. Although he was suffering, he was getting little chapati, and he was okay with suffering as long as he gets a little chapati. So this is called entanglement. Rat got entangled, although he can go out and free himself, and then he can go where chapatis and get the chapati. He does not have to suffer electric shock, but he was okay to go through electric shock as long as some morsel of chapati comes to him. That's like material world. Likewise, this bird on the tree, which is referred to us, the jiva, is trying to taste fruits in this world, and sometimes they are bitter and sometimes they are sweeter, and we are keep on trying to repeat and gather more and more sweet fruits, and that's how we don't want to escape. So the desire to escape goes away, and that is because we are entangled. Just like today I was hearing a lecture. The example is little bit severe, but I heard in a lecture, the comparison is given to a worm in a stool. The worm in a stool, for that worm, the stool is best place to be in, and the worm give rise to many families there, build his whole empire there, and they all live in a stool. And for the worm, he doesn't desire to go out of it because he's so happy, and if the stool is wet, it's like nahle pe dhela, means whatever there is a saying, he's like supremely blissful. So that's compared to life in material world, where because we don't have any idea of spiritual world and no attraction, all we are aware is my relationship with this body and my connection as the body with this world. That's all I know, and based on that and based on my association what other people are running after, I must also run after the same material attachments, like blind following the blind. The blind is going to fall into the ditch. I will also fall into the ditch of cycle of birth, and that's okay. I don't have any other goal. I don't know where else to go, so we are running. But when we come across Bhagavad-Gita and the spiritual association and the scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, and when we they are like a window to spiritual world, and when we see, okay, there is something better and there is a choice, and then the door to liberation opens. I remember I came to US for my masters. So I was doing my masters here, and the devotees told me, let's read Bhagavad Gita. And I said, I'm not interested in all this Bhagavad Gita. And he said, no, we should really read Bhagavad Gita. It will take 3 hours. It was a day of Gita Jayanti. It will take 3 hours. Let's read entire Bhagavad Gita 3 hours in a shot. And I said, no, I have exams and I have so many things to do. I don't want to read. And then every week they would tell me, Prabhu, let's go to temple. And I said, well, I'm not interested. I'm too busy right now. I need to get a good marks and a good job. That's my only goal. And I have loans, so don't disturb me. And they would try so much, and then because they were so sweet people, they will bring prasadam for me, they would take care of so much for me. I was kind of obliged, not really interested, but I was obliged. So I said, all right, Prabhu, to please you, we will read Bhagavad Gita, although I'm not interested. And then I read Bhagavad Gita 3 hours non-stop throughout. It was a Gita Jayanti. Gita Jayanti is coming. It comes in December. So on the day of Gita Jayanti, we read entire Bhagavad Gita in 3 hours, just the translations. And when I read Bhagavad Gita, then I saw, I was astounded and dumbfounded and surprised, and it was like a window for me. What am I doing? It made me question, yeah, what's going on? Like my whole understanding, illusory conception of life was shattered. And I was like, oh, and it made me keep thinking for days. And so that's what these books do, because we are so entangled in our way of life and in the material world. There does not seem to be another option, because we are only seeing one option. But when there is an option which is much more brighter, which shows the nature of this world and nature of that, and what you are going to get, is like a window. So when, like, it's like dark and you open the window and there is nice greenery and forest and fruit trees and so much goodness and ocean, then you feel, oh, this is so nice, and then you become attracted to it. So that's what Krishna is telling, that the soul attains unadulterated peace, because we become unpeaceful because we are running after bitter and sweeter fruits. And every time we taste a bitter fruit, it causes us so much anxiety. When things don't go our way, it causes us so much anxiety. When our desires are unfulfilled, it causes so much anxiety. But when we withdraw ourselves from tasting such bitter and taste fruits, and rather we are doing it for the sake of seva, karma yoga, for the pleasure of the Lord, then we are not so much affected by the fruits. Then we just do as a matter of duty, and we enjoy some other fruits which are always sweeter, like bhakti yoga, and then we become peaceful. So we attain unadulterated peace because our focus is diverted from material to spiritual. So material is always up and down, spiritual is um, 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 Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purna Amrita Swadanam. It is full of Ananda. Anandam Buddhivardhanam. The mind and intelligence is filled with Ananda. Pratipadam, step by step. Purna Amrita Swadanam. It feels like full of bliss. Purna Amrita Swadanam. Of course, it's an advanced stage. We cannot experience that Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purna Amrita Swadanam right away. At this stage, our progress is more or like as a matter of practice. Okay, sometime I may like hearing Bhagavad Gita, I may not like. Let me do it because I know it's the right thing to do, or at least I think it's the right thing to do. Let me do it. And as the heart, to the extent the heart starts to become pure, to that extent we experience ananda or bliss in bhakti. It An impure heart cannot taste bhakti, but still we feel lot of peace and lot of happiness. That is just a shadow. It's just a shadow that we are experiencing. The real thing comes with the purity of the heart. So sometimes the material emotions will overwhelm us, and anger will overwhelm us, and we find no taste, or so many factors we will discuss as we advance, if Krishna allows, the obstacles in bhakti and what hampers our bhakti, what enhances our bhakti. This comes in another book called um, um, Upadeshamrita, the obstacles in bhakti. Anyway, so a person, a devoted soul, attains unadulterated peace because he offers the result of all activities to me, whereas a person who is greedy for the fruits is entangled, just like the rat is entangled, even though it was the back door was open. So here are the summary. Here is the benefits of bhakti yoga. Uh, um, Okay, so here are the benefits of Bhakti Yoga. It is recommended by Krishna. Krishna says, out of Karma Yoga Vishishyate, Tiyusta Karma Sannyasat Karma Yoga Vishishyate. So, better work in devotion instead of renouncing. Then it is joyfully performed. Krishna says he becomes happy. And we saw the example of Vishwamitra Muni fell down, Haridas Thakur, because he was happy, he could transcend. He remains unaffected like a lotus feet leaf in the water, and we saw lotus leaf is above the lake, unaffected by water. Likewise, we can be in this world, but our goal is not, we are not entangled by our activities, because we are doing it for the pleasure of the Lord. So it becomes akarma. So akarma even removes our previous reaction, and it's non-reactive. because it's done for the pleasure of Krishna. So we remain unaffected, we attain unadulterated peace, and we become dear to everyone. So these are some of the benefits, and that's why Krishna says Karma Yoga Vashishyate. Um, okay, so there is one more slide. This is the last slide for today. The yogis abandoning attachment act with body, mind, intelligence, and even the senses only for the purpose of purification. So a yogi does not use his senses, eyes, nose, ears, sense of touch for sense gratification. He does not use his mind, his intelligence, and his ego for sense gratification. He uses his eyes, his nose, sense of touch, his mind, his intelligence, everything for the purpose of purification. Purification. In other words, by engaging our mind, intelligence, and senses in the service of Krishna, then we become a yogi. And when we engage our mind, intelligence, and senses in material attachments, then we become a bhogi. Bhogi means sense enjoyer. So choice is ours. We can either become a yogi or we can become a bhogi. All right, that's all I have for today. If there are any question, please let me know.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, Anant Haridas this side.
Dandavad Pranam, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, one inquiry, Prabhuji. Person who is performing a karma, he is having that mood and consciousness that he is doing everything for the pleasure of Lord. And there is another person who is taking up the 9 processes of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtan, Smaran, but he is not in that mood or consciousness of pleasing Lord. Although he has taken up, but he doesn't have that like he's chanting because I have to chant, I have committed, but he doesn't have that mood to please Lord. So Prabhuji, is it still recommended for him to continue even though he has no consciousness of pleasing the Lord? What I'm trying to ask that is is a karma necessary for the for one to take up the devotional items or
Um,
not?
okay, Prabhuji. Um, mm, when we do hearing and chanting, that will give us the consciousness that we can do everything else for the pleasure of the Lord. The principal elements of devotional service is hearing and chanting. Um, that will lead to a karma.
So Prabhuji, the focus is on the 9 items of devotional service, even though one is not having that consciousness.
Yes, and like Prabhu, what I said, it will naturally develop the consciousness. When we have, I'm talking about myself, when we have lot of attachments, um, even though we may be performing devotional service, for some period of time we will continue to cultivate those attachments, because we won't become detached because we have heard it today and tomorrow we are detached. So we will not be able to do it for the pleasure of Krishna because we will have our own motives, and that's okay. And Krishna knows that, and Krishna confirms that in Srimad Bhagavatam, that but because a devotee is thinking of me, um, he becomes gradually purified. As the heart becomes purified, one can do the same things which one was doing previously out of attachment. One can do the same thing for the pleasure of Lord alone. And how much we do for pleasure of Lord and how much we do because I am enjoying that particular karma, um, gradually transforms from self-attachment to Krishna conscious. That's why
Yeah.
this element of devotional service, hearing and chanting will eventually lead all perfection. If we just try to work for the pleasure of Krishna and not doing hearing and chanting, we will be unable to do so. So we understand the principle. Once our intellect is sharpened by the principle, then we follow the process, and Krishna says in due course of time. Prabhu, does it help?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, I understand. A karma will, devotional items will lead to a karma.
Yes, pure karma. Yes.
Yes,
All
Prabhu.
right. So we would like to end here. Thank you all so much for your wonderful association. I always become very enlivened in all of your sangha. Grateful to each and every one of you. My obeisances to all of your lotus feet. Vancha kalpa tarubhesha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavendra ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I desire that you all become great devotees of the Lord. Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna.